Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ice Cold Takes podcast. I'm your host, Joey DeMeglio, and this week I'm joined once again by Kyle Hall of the Broadway Hat podcast. Today we'll talk a bit about the draft, which begins tonight and continues tomorrow, and then free agency, which starts next week, and as well as address the JT Miller trade rumors that have been going on. And we'll start with the Georgiev trade that just happened literally like half
breaking
hour,
news.
45 minutes ago. Yeah, Kyle, how are you? Thanks for joining me again.
Yeah, thanks. Bring out breaking news as soon as we come on here. Georgiev, another trade. I think Chris Drury did another great job, right? To get rid of a guy that had no future with the team, wanted out, and you're probably not going to qualify next week to get 3 picks for him. I think it's a home run.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that he hit it out of the park here with Georgiev. I heard last week or recently, the report was the Rangers wanted a high prospect and a draft pick, something along those lines. I might have mixed up my terms there, but to me, that seemed like an astronomical asking price. And to see that they got 3 draft picks out of that trade is actually surprising. And I think this is a great trade for the Rangers. And we were just talking before we started the live stream that, this could be a potential for a Nemeth trade. Now we have something to tack on to that. We have a 3rd round pick for next year, or we could do something with this year's 3rd round pick. And you said Arizona might be in play for that, right?
Yeah, so Arizona's looking to take on salary, per usual out in the desert. They really aren't looking to win, and they need to hit the cap floor. So Nemeth has a no trade clause. I don't know what exactly it says. If Arizona's on it, I don't know if it's a full. I think it's an 8 team though. So, but the other option obviously is buying him out, and that was the other report that came out. The Rangers are willing to buy him out. But by trading him, obviously, you save a little more cap this year. You save that $1 million cost. I think it's in 2023, 24. And then, but to do that, you're obviously got to move out some kind of pick or player. I can see from an Arizona standpoint, Nemeth is probably going to cost you at least a 2nd or 3rd round pick plus a Hartford prospect. And I don't think it's a junior player. I think it's a Hartford prospect. I think it's a guy that they can maybe plug into their lineup. I don't know who that player is. If it's a Matthew Robertson, that kind of a player who's kind of like a high 2nd round pick, hasn't got the NHL yet, but is trending that way. He has kind of a blocked path right now with the Rangers. There's not too many spots left. They have 5 solid defensemen right now that are going to be in that lineup next year. And you have Niels Lundqvist and Zach Jones, who are, 2 top prospects right there too, along with Robertson. So you have him that's kind of hanging out there. Is he a guy that you attach with Nemeth to get rid of him? Is it worth it? Is it worth just eating the money and eating that $1 million, cap loss there on him? It really, when you look back at, we're applauding Chris Drury for this great trade of Georgiev and getting some assets back for him. Nemeth could be the one bad maybe move he's made. I think the Buchnevich trade was something that you had to have done. I think it was a little, when it happened, Ranger fans thought you'd be able to trade him for Eichel. And I think that's why most Ranger fans were upset. Maybe they can get a 1st round pick for him. Whatever it is, obviously had a monster year with the Blues, but he got a huge contract. He wouldn't have stayed with Rangers could never kept him. So you could say that was his first deal. So Ranger fans what is he doing? And since then, he's been money. I mean, everything he's done has been great. Every pickup at the trade deadline was great. Goodrow was a great signing. Reeves was a great trade last offseason to bring him in. So Nemeth is probably the one guy you're like, maybe not so great with him. And I can understand their logic. Swedish defenseman, veteran. You had Niels Lundqvist there. You wanted to bring in a fellow countryman. And then Niels really wasn't ready for the NHL. So that didn't work out that way. And then Nemeth didn't work out in general. So we'll see if the Rangers move him. I don't think they'll be able to move him today, which is why I think the draft pick for next year comes into play. I don't think he gets moved to this draft. I think Julien Gauthier is the next guy you'll hear probably move from the Rangers. I wouldn't be surprised if he is dealt tonight or tomorrow for a late round pick, probably in that 5, 6, 7 range. Again, the Rangers are not going to, I don't see them having a spot for him. He's on a one-way deal. He'd have to go through waivers to return to the American Hockey League this next season. So Be interesting what they do there, whether that really re-signed him last week, but I don't see him sticking around New York. He asked for a trade. I can see some team will risk a 6th-round pick for him. I can see.
Yeah, I could definitely see Gauthier asking out. That makes sense because he's not getting a whole lot of playing time. He wasn't after the trade deadline, and he needs to go to a team that has a spot in their lineup because he could do some damage. I mean, we all joke and say he does the same move every time and he can't finish, but he gets a lot of chances and he draws a crap ton of penalties. And I think that could be very valuable for a team. So give him to a team like Arizona or Seattle. I think Seattle could use him for sure. Ottawa, even one of those teams, he give him a chance to play. And I think with the Nemeth thing, if you buy him out, I believe it's $2 million cap. It goes against the cap this year, or $1 million. You're saving $2 million over the course of the next 4 years.
Yeah, it doesn't hit next year. It hits the year after for like $1 million for 2 years in a row.
Yeah. Yes. It's $1 million cap hit.
Yeah.
For then not next year, the following year.
It's a savings of I think like 1.5 million this year or something like that.
Yes.
So it's not a full savings, but it's like a half savings or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. So it's not as bad as I thought it was originally. I forget when I looked at it the first time. It was like months ago what a buyout would look like, and I was not a fan of it. But actually, it would help. It kind of would help out a little bit. But if you can move him in a deal to Arizona without giving up too much, chipping in with him going the other way, I'd say do that.
Well, that's why I think a trade's better than a buyout anytime, because then you're completely clean of that contract. You just move on from that whole thing. And on cap friendly, you don't have to look at his name for the next 3 years on the buyout line, like you do with Kevin Shattenkirk now. But I mean, I don't know what Arizona's plan is for the future there. They seem to be kind of like holding out until they get that new arena. So Nemeth's deal would be up right in time for that. And then they can kind of go for, if they go for Austin Matthews, whatever they're going to go for out there and try to bring in a big name. But I mean, Julien Gauthier, I don't think he is a top end prospect that they're going to want attached. But you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone by sending them both out there with another prospect or a pick or something. But if Gauthier is not a money thing, it's more just like a performance thing, right? Like he's only making $800K. He's not going to kill you in the cap, but there's there's more guys on that Rangers roster you want to see in the lineup than him. Right. So it comes to a point where you're out of roster spots, and you kind of got to do right by the player too. Like if he's not going to play, he's going to be sitting in the press box the entire year. They kind of like, I mean, the crazy thing is like Libor Hayek is now like back in the picture. He's now kind of that Rangers 7th defenseman again with Nemeth gone, and they're not going to bring back Braun, it looks like, and he's got he's 1 more year on the Hayek deal, I believe. So I think Hayek is here to stay again. And I saw yesterday that he had the 2nd least games played of any player that was on an NHL roster for quote unquote 82 games. He had some games in Hartford where he went down for it was called a rehab stint. Conditioning stint, whatever it was. Yeah. But he was still on the Rangers roster because they never actually sent him down. So it was like the second, so like his 17 games, there's one guy who had 11 games, but at 17 he was the second most games with that. So that was interesting. But yeah, he's now back in the fold, I would think, I guess. I don't see anyone taking him off their hands. So
yeah, Hayek's an interesting one. If the Rangers do decide to keep him as the 7th defenseman, I'd have to imagine that Zach Jones would beat him out for that 6D spot in next year.
I think the 6D spot is between Lundqvist and Jones.
It's Lundqvist and Jones. Yes,
but whoever loses that could possibly, or could not even be in it if they do trade for a number 2 center. I would think whatever team is trading trading to the Rangers are going to want one of those 2 guys. But I think it'd be more beneficial if they're both on the roster and one makes and one doesn't, for one to go back to the American Hockey League and play every night, opposed to playing every, whatever games and rotating in, what your Hayek can do for you. I guess fill in sparingly, unless the guy's missing 4 to 5 games. Like then you bring up one of those kids to play the entirety of that. But to have him just sit there and play every once in a while, it's more beneficial for them to play in Hartford and get some ice time instead of that. Because I mean, we saw when Hayek went in the lineup, like he wouldn't play for a month, and all of a sudden he just show up, and he didn't play too bad at the end of the year, but still, not the answer you want.
Some guys just don't work out, and Hayek was once a highly touted prospect and a second round pick. The Rangers wanted him in that trade. I listened on your episode with Bill Pito. Great episode, by the way. You guys should go check that one out. That was a really good one. Bill Pito was saying that the Rangers really, really wanted Hayek thrown in that deal, the McDonough trade. And, you know, some guys just don't pan out. And Hayek, I think, is one of them. And you know, you were referencing, you know, the defensemen that we have, our stockpile defensemen. We have Jones, we have Lundqvist, and then trying to move those players, move from a position of strength to address an area of weakness. And no position has been talked about more in the past like 2 weeks, even since before the season ended, the playoffs ended, than the 2C position, because Strome and Kopp looks like they're both going to unrestricted free agency. And basically every single day since the finals ended, there's been rumor after rumor. Pierre-Luc Dubois, Evgeni Malkin, Paul Stastny. Now JT Miller is in the mix in terms of players the Rangers could acquire for their second line center position. And I'm hearing now, like Jeff Merrick said, okay, the Rangers, he sees the Rangers as being the destination for JT. If you throw in Kakko there, I don't see how that trade makes sense at all, because who plays second line right wing? You're moving from a position like you have Panarin and Kakko locked up there, right? They're penciled in there. They're filled in. You move Kakko, you address 2C. Now you have the hole in on the right side. Who's playing there?
You can say Kravtsov, I guess.
But he hasn't played in the NHL much. I mean, but and then there's also the argument that Kakko hasn't had much production. Well, he hasn't had that much ice time really in his career, has he? I mean, I thought he looked the best we've seen him with Panarin this year and on the kid line. Those were his best performances.
I don't want to give up on Kakko. I really don't.
I'm not ready to do that.
I'm not ready to do that yet. And I think if they can get him on a 2-year, 2.25, which was the number that I thought he would probably come in at on a bridge deal, I think that works out best for the Rangers, cap wise, future wise, whatever. JT Miller, listen, I liked him on the Rangers. When they traded him, I was upset. Again, the last man standing from that trade is Libor Hayek. Well, I guess you could say Niels Lundqvist was a draft pick there, but and was it Carl Henriksen? They were both picks that turn into players. But Libor Hayek, obviously, like we talked about, was the guy they wanted in that trade. And so it'd be kind of funny if they did get Miller back from Vancouver, ship Hayek back to Vancouver, and kind of rework that one. But I don't see. Miller's apparently turned down a 6-year deal worth $8 million from Vancouver. That was the report yesterday.
See, that's too. See, and right there, that's too much for the Rangers' salary cap. They cannot afford a long-term contract like that. And JT Miller is not. I mean, I like him. He brings a lot to the team, but there's a lot of question marks with him. People think that he might shift back into his old habits of being a bad influence coming back to New York. I don't know about that, but it's just a long-term commitment. I'm not willing to make that financial commitment, because I talked with Hockey Stat Miner, who's a genius on the salary cap last week, and he was saying the Rangers have 6 guys. We have Mika, Kreider, Panarin, Shesterkin, Fox, and Trouba locked into big contracts there. If you make one more, is Miller good enough to take them over the edge? I say no.
I don't think so. And I'm worried about the salary cap. I'm worried about you go after one of these guys, and now you can't lock in Keandre Miller long term.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Without moving a Jacob Trouba, which I don't know if you can move Trouba as well as he played this year. is he still valued that high in the market by other teams? You know what I mean? Like, can they still get a return for him? Or is it going to turn out to be, kind of like a Ryan McDonough situation this year where they basically just sent him to Nashville for nothing. And they got lucky that they were able to get rid of a contract. So that's what I am nervous about and tentative about with these giant contracts. I personally I would go after a guy like DeBrincat over Miller, a younger guy that can kind of grow with this core. That's a guy I would give a longer term deal to. And you could probably give a longer term deal to him with a little less money too when he does come. But you're going to have to give up probably more assets to Chicago than you would to Vancouver for him because he's a young player. I mean, way off the board, but I think we talked about this way back when, but I would go after Patrick Kane. That's the guy that I would go after. I think you put Kane on this roster, and that's a guy who I would probably send Kakko out of town for, because then you have another winger there. And but then you have Hedl on your second line center. So that's the only thing, is that you had Hedl on your second line center, and then Barclay Goodrow would be your third line center. And then you have to bring back, and you got to bring back either Rooney or Mott to play on your fourth line center. But then you bring in Kane. And I mean, what is the one thing the Rangers in the all postseason, what are they missing? The 5-on-5 goal scoring. Patrick Kane can do that for you. He can play next to Panarin. They're dynamic in Chicago together. I just have a pipe dream of him playing for the Rangers. And I know he's on his final deal in Chicago. Chicago's obviously looking to rebuild. They're going to want to he'll most likely be dealt at the deadline if he wants to. It's going to be one of those things where he's going to determine what's going to happen. He's that type of player, kind of like a Malkin in Pittsburgh. If he wanted to be traded, he would have said, I want to be traded, and they'll move him. But he has the clout there. He's won the championships. He's got the rings, where he's not going anywhere unless he wants to go somewhere. And I think he wants to go to a contender. And now you can say the Rangers are contenders. I just think, and I think Chicago would eat some of that salary if you send them I would send them Kakko and Niels
for Kane.
50%
retained.
Some retained. They got to retain something, yeah. And then they probably want a kicker of a pick somewhere too, probably.
See, I like Kane as a player, and he's one of my favorite hockey players, right? I mean, the guy's outstanding. One of the greatest American hockey players. Gonna be a Hall of Famer for sure. But his age doesn't fit in with the team. I'd rather DeBrincat. I think DeBrincat would probably be but long term for what we're building. I would trade Kakko for DeBrincat, not Kakko for Kane. I would try and scrap up whatever assets we had except for Kakko Lafreniere to move for Kane. I would love Kane. I think it would be good for the team. Panarin and Kane. Yes, I dream about that. There's only a couple people I would move Kakko for and make a financial. It's got to be players that you're going to make a commitment to, that you're going to add to that group of 6, because you invested the second overall pick into Kakko. You got to get something good back. And 2 of those guys, DeBrincat, Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah. The rumors were going around yesterday hard on him. I think Ottawa was the one name that was in there. They wanted to team him up with his brother again, which that would be a line I would not want to play against. The 2 Tkachuk brothers on the same line together, I wouldn't want to go against those guys.
That if you whatever it takes to get Matthew Tkachuk, I would give it up. Maybe except for Lafreniere. I would throw in Hedl and Kakko for a guy like Tkachuk, because he's a dynamic player, checks off all the boxes, tough to play against. His analytics are outstanding. He's a great 5v5 player. That's one of those players where yes, I want that guy. This last year, everyone was talking about Eichel. I was fantasizing about Tkachuk coming to the Rangers. I know there was always rumors. I wasn't following the Rangers when his father Keith played, but I think there was always the fantasy.
He was always rumored to go to the Rangers.
Always rumored
every
to go to the
year.
Rangers. Yeah.
Every year.
So how poetic would it be if Matthew Tkachuk comes to the Rangers? You know what I mean?
I know, yeah. No, I think he's an awesome player too. I love that guy. He's nasty. He hits. He scores. goes to tough areas. Yeah, I mean, for the Rangers, like the makeup they have right now, like that's their kind of makeup, right? Like get into the dirty spots, and like that's how they score all their goals. Like Kreider, obviously, player like that, like plays hard nose in front of the net. But yeah, I mean, they need some kind of 5-on-5 scoring help somewhere. I don't, and you kind of hope they do it with this number 2 center, right? Like take 2, kind of knock out 2 needs in one if they can get that. But like, I don't think Vincent Trocheck is the answer. I feel like a lot of Ranger fans like him. I'm
He's
not too
good,
high
but
on him. He's good, but he doesn't move the needle for me. I think that he's a solid player. Like he's a guy kind of similar to Kachuk. Like, will get underneath his skin, do some of the dirty work, but I don't think he's on the same level as that kind of a player. He didn't really impress me in that series against Carolina at all. For everything I heard going in, that he was going to be the guy that Ranger fans were going to hate him. I didn't really notice him until game 4, or wherever that was when he scored the goal finally, or 5 when in Carolina. But yeah, I know a lot of Ranger fans like him. I just, if he comes at a lower salary, then I think maybe, but if he's a $6 million guy, I'd rather have Strome back, honestly.
Out of this group of free agents, not one of them I'm willing to make a long-term commitment to, which is why I think they should play it safe, use Hedel as 2C this year, and sign Paul Stastny for 1 year, because the guy can still play. He's good at 5v5. He wins faceoffs, over 50% for his career. I mean, takeaways to giveaways, he's pretty good on that. He takes the puck away more than he gives it away, which is always a good thing, I'd say.
Yeah,
so he's responsible in his own end. He's responsible in his own end, because I don't get a chance to watch him play. Like, I didn't watch the Jets games this year. I haven't watched when he played, for Vegas. I didn't watch many of those games, but I know just from looking at his stats that, this guy checks off a lot of boxes. Rangers could definitely use him on the third line. Maybe as just a face-off winner, just to pin that would help with 5v5 a little bit.
Well,
and
that's
I
why
think
I
he's
wanted
a reasonable price too, like 3 to 4 million, less than 4 million for sure, I'd say.
Yeah, that's why I wanted Kopp back over Strome. If you were going to pick one of the two of them, I would want Kopp back because of the face-offs.
Yes.
And just the better 5-on-5 player, I feel like. And Kopp, I thought, was a fantastic penalty killer for the Rangers too.
Yeah, I agree.
Strome, fills in here and there, but nothing like, Kopp you can put out there against the top guys for the first minute and not worry about it, and also play a little power play too. So, and I think the best thing if Strome leaves is Lafreniere moving to the first power play.
Yes.
Like, they have to move into the first power play next year. The kid is too good to keep on. Get him the 30 seconds on the second power play.
He needs to have first line ice time for sure next year. That's my thinking. And then with Kopp, I would love Kopp, but he's asking for a long-term deal. And
yeah,
I don't want the Rangers to make that commitment. Don't. Some fans had a problem with the Barclay Goodrow contract. It's too long. And yes, the last 2-3 years are going to be killer for them, because he's going to be a little bit older. And I mean, you don't want a declining player with high salary and a no move clause on your team. It's puts you in a tight spot.
The only good thing is that it's not a lot of money.
It's not like it isn't. Yeah. No, it's not. It's not. I mean, it's not gonna kill you. What's killing you is that Trouba contract. And within I think you play it safe, wait until next offseason, and then offer, the extensions to Lafreniere and Miller, right? Hedel and those guys, Kravtsov, if he's still around here. Then see what you have, and if you still have space, if you could still make a move, shed some salary, get rid of trade Trouba, because I think his no move clause expires in 2 years. So that's when you could move on from him and then open up some salary and go after a big name player. If you want to go for Dubois, he's going to be unrestricted free agent in 2 years anyways. But it kind of looks like he's forcing his way to Montreal from what I've heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like that's where he wants to go, right? Like, that's like his one destination. That one hurts the Winnipeg because now that's out there. So why would the Rangers or some team go draft him or go trade for him within 2 years he's gonna be a free agent and he's gonna go to Montreal. So, and the other thing with JT Miller too, by the way, going back to him, is that like we were saying, like he's a guy you have to sign long term, because if you do that deal and you don't renew him, he's a rental, and now you give all those assets for rental guys. So there's also an unknown there with him. That's why with DeBrincat, like I think he's I don't want to say lowest risk, but like I think like for a future looking, he might be the guy to go for. And of course, as I'm talking to you about this, I have like Patrick Kane radar. There's a rumor now that Patrick Kane is looking to get out of Chicago if they move to DeBrincat. So it's like,
so if they move to DeBrincat,
yeah, because that just signifies that they're done. That signifies that they're going through a whole new thing.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they should move on from DeBrincat. To be honest, I think you hold on to a guy. How old is he? He's like 24 right now, DeBrincat.
DeBrincat, yeah. So NRD, the NHL Daily Rumors or Rumor Daily. There's a thing here that he commented on someone saying that Patrick Kane should ask for a trade as soon as DeBrincat gets dealt, and he goes, the usual suspects, Florida and New York, will be all over him.
Yeah.
So I love that. The last 88 was Lindros, so we gotta get a new 88 in there.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Showtime, Patrick Kane, that would be awesome. Yeah, it just I got to see what we'd be giving up for.
Yeah.
I mean, if he could still play and you could sign him for a reasonable amount of salary, just keep going with 1-year deals. Why not? I would
exactly.
do that.
Yeah.
If he's okay with sticking to 1-year deals, then I would make the trade. But if he wants
like a 2-year deal, or
if he wants like an Ovechkin type or like the deal Letang just signed, I'm not getting
crazy.
No.
Yeah, 6 years for Letang.
Because you don't know what could happen as you get older. I mean, the risk for injury is there, and it's going to be a bad contract. Like what they did with Hossa. Like Hossa couldn't play the end of his contract, or Seabrook, he couldn't play the end of his contract. It was too long. Like I don't want that.
I know.
Short-term contracts, like 1, 2, maybe 3 years.
Yeah, but if he does it 3 years, he comes down in salary. You know what I mean? Like something like that. Like you sign to a 3-year deal worth like 4.5 instead of like a 2-year for 6. Like try to get a deal on him that way, which is kind of like Barclay Goodrow, right? You sign to 6 years at 3 instead of 4 years at 5. So like the Rangers got a better deal because they gave him the extra term. Like, and Nick Paul just did it in Tampa.
Yes.
He wanted the term. He didn't want the year. He didn't want he wanted a little more stability, I guess, in his life, and took 7 years.
That's going to save them some money over time. I think
great deal for Tampa. Deal for Tampa.
I think that's I think that was a great deal. I can't believe he wanted the years. Like I would never agree to that, but he knows the kind of player that he is, Nick Paul. So he's okay with being that style for the next, what was it, 7 years?
7 years, yeah.
Okay, yeah, there you go. I mean, Evgeni Malkin, no, I don't want that. I've heard those rumors. No, I don't want that.
I don't want Malkin. His attitude feels like he gets worse and worse as he goes on. He doesn't like lose. Obviously Rangers hopefully aren't a losing team next year, but he doesn't like losing. And we saw the Rangers saw firsthand in the game where Igor waved him off the ice. He had the little like fit on the ice. He had the fit in the playoffs too, where he's throwing the stick on the bench. Like he's just a guy that I don't know. I don't want around the Rangers young kids and this
took a lot of dumb penalties. Yeah,
it takes a lot of dumb penalties, a lot of stupid slashes and stuff. I feel like this team is very tight knit, and I feel like they have a good thing rolling here. And just throw a guy like that, like a powder keg, into the mix is not the right move. There's a lot more players I think they could be. I don't know, his age. There's injury issues. Like there's a lot more better players you can go after than him.
Yeah. I think the Rangers should definitely re-sign Tyler Mott, though, for sure.
Yes. I'm all about Mott. I like to see them re-sign Rooney. I know a lot of Ranger fans don't want to see that. I like Rooney. I like Kevin Rooney. I think he's a good face-off guy, good penalty killer. Not going to cost you. I think he made $700,000 last year. Probably be right around that number again, maybe $850,000. So I mean, a guy who could play left wing, center, can be kind of like your 13th, 14th forward that's sitting there. But then you also have a Dryden Hunt that you still have in the contract, and you have a Sammy Blake comeback. So the Rangers have a lot of guys that could fill that bottom 6. They got to figure out who's going to play that top 6 role Is it going to be a Kako next year? Is it going to be a Kravtsov? Is it going to be a Lafreniere? Do they bring back Frank Vetrano on a small term deal? Like, I think he's the guy who might have, of all those guys at the trade deadline, probably the best shot at sticking around. Seems like he really enjoyed his time in New York. I don't think he's going to want a huge contract, but there's been zero talk about anything with him. Like, I haven't heard a peep out of him, out of anything. So very odd, where all these other guys have these rumors going around that, he wants to be a free agent. They want to be this, they want to do that. There's been nothing with Frank Vetrano.
If the salary is reasonable, why not bring him back?
Yeah,
but
I thought he was great.
I've also heard about Gustav Rydell being used as the fourth line center, Swedish player that the Rangers signed recently, or Bobby Trevino.
Yeah,
the Rangers picked up, I think, before the season ended. They could plug them in at fourth line center. I'm interested to see how those guys look in camp.
Now Trevino is more of a top 9 player,
more of a top instead of a bottom 6.
Yeah, he's more of a goal scorer, playmaker. Now he could be a guy that can get a run at maybe the third line center role. If you move Hedel up or trade Hedel, he could be a guy you can maybe look on a third line role. But he's not a fourth line player, so I would hate to put him there. Like, the Rangers have done that with Elias Anderson. These guys who aren't fourth liners, they throw him on there because they want to see him in the NHL, and they play with a guy like Glass or someone who can't handle the puck. And like JT Miller was actually a perfect example of that when he first came out the Rangers. They played him on the fourth line, and he's like passing the puck off people's heads, and it's like what's going on here. But so I think Trevino's a guy definitely to watch next year in camp, or this year in camp, to see if he can make the team. Obviously an unbelievable college hockey player. I don't know if they want him to play in Hartford for one more year or what it is with him, but and he's another guy. The Rangers have all this young talent. Like, eventually they gotta either play him or get rid of him, right? Like, then you have Offman. I think they gotta give him a really good look.
Yeah,
in training camp. He's a big kid. Like, he's already a man. He's already built. Will Cooley really impressed a lot of people last year in training camp. I think he got a preseason game last year, Cooley too. I think Offman did too. And they both really impressed. 2 physical young kids. I keep on talking up Dylan Garand because I think he's going to be great for them down the line as a backup goalie for Igor. He's going to be in camp, and I have a great special coming out on him actually soon in the podcast. So I was excited to start building that this week. And I think he's going to be a player to watch next year because you got Kincaid's a UFA. Huska is I think he was an RFA, but I think he actually qualifies as a UFA. So because of his service time or whatever it is. Tyler Wall, the other goalie the Rangers drafted a couple years ago, he's an RFA. So they got all these guys who they got to re-sign. And if they don't re-sign them, they have no goalie in Hartford. So Garand, I think, is going to get a great shot at the Hartford job next year. I think they bring back Huska. I think they like him, and he's a draft pick of the Rangers. Kincaid might look somewhere else to see if he can get a backup job somewhere. Or who knows, maybe the Rangers sign him to be the backup in New York. But I think Garand's got a good look there in Hartford. So they got all these kids that are like I said, Matthew Robertson before, like, where does he go? So they have some assets that if they want to deal for some guys, they have them, because I don't want to give up Offman, but if Offman makes a team, where does Will Cooley play? And is he a guy you put in Hartford for a year or two? Does he want to go in Hartford for a year or two? Like, is he NHL ready? Is he a guy you can attach to a trade for someone? I think they were ranked the number 5 prospect pool in the NHL. And that's after, I guess it was going into the season. So they're probably less because Igor graduated, and who else would graduate? I guess Lafreniere would have graduated. So they're probably a little bit higher now, but they have so much young talent, and they're going to have to re-sign these guys too, right? Like we said with Keandre, you got to give him a long-term deal. Yep. So eventually you can't keep everyone.
Right. To your point about Offman, he's too good to play in the OHL, and he's too young to play in the AHL.
Yeah.
And we don't know if he's good enough for the NHL. So it's really tough to see with that. And you're only going to get however many preseason games there are
And you could do the
and the
first 10
training camp.
games. You could do the
Yeah.
first 10 games of the year
Yeah.
before you send him back down. So I can
Yep.
see him doing that. The last guy I remember the Rangers doing that with, I think, was Hedel.
Yes.
I think Hedel was the last guy.
Yes. I remember they did that. Yes. I remember Duclair they did that with.
Yeah. Yeah, they did with Duclair. Yeah. I think it was Hedel before Duclair. Hedel was after Duclair, right? Yeah.
Hedel was after Duclair. Yes. Because Duclair got traded in 2015. And then to what you were saying, all these centers that we have, all these prospects in the pipeline, Rangers need more centers. Like, and I think they should invest a good portion of their draft picks for this year or tomorrow in centers. That's what I think, honestly. Maybe take a goalie, a defenseman with one of them, but we have the second, which is 63rd overall, the fourth, which is 111th, the fifth, a fifth rounder, 159th, and then a sixth rounder, which is 191st. And then in addition, we have the third and the fifth we got from Colorado today.
Yeah, which is 97 and 161st.
Yes. So with those, honestly, I don't know too much about the players in this draft class. All I know is that next year's draft class is supposed to be a lot better.
Yeah. So this year's like apparently every scout I've talked to, which is 4 of them, they all say that this is a good class, not a great class. But like next year, like you said, like that's a really good class.
Yeah. So I mean, try and hold on to your first round pick next year. I wouldn't trade into the first round tonight. Scouting department, maybe they see something we don't.
Yeah.
No.
The big thing to watch out for is the Russians. So the Russians, they don't know what the hell is going to happen with them. We've seen all this, stuff this week with the Flyer goaltender getting thrown into the gulag there and thrown up into the Barents Sea as as a naval base guy, and Kaprizov is now wanted. And, thankfully it sounds like Panarin and Shesterkin are stateside, staying here for the summer. Who knows where Kravtsov is? I hope he gets out of there. So there's a lot of uncertainty with the Russian players where they think some of these high-end Russian players could fall in the draft, which is, if you want to take that risk, and the Rangers have now, that third round pick now this year, maybe one of these Russian players falls and they jump on them, and a couple years over there in Russia, and they can pull them back over here. And now they have a top end prospect that kind of fell into their lap. But a lot of teams apparently are very nervous about the Russian players, and they're not going to be playing in the World Juniors because of the sanctions. They're not playing in any international tournaments. So, it's going to kind of stunt some of their development in that kind of sense. So there's a lot of people shying away apparently from the Russian players, unless they already know that they're going to be able to come over here right away. And I think what they're hoping for is some of these Russian players will move over and be an import draft or import signing for a Canadian junior team. And this way, because if not, there's no player development on your side. You're just hoping these kids play well in Russia, because you can't get over there to see them play or, any instruction at all. So that's the concern for apparently a lot of teams going in this. And it could be good for a team like the Rangers, who don't have a first round pick, have a couple mid-round picks and some late picks, that if a kid falls, you take a chance on them, let them sit there in Russia, hopefully this war figures itself out in the next year or so, and then there'll be relations again between these countries and kind of figure it out. But that's the biggest thing coming into this draft, is just what the hell's going on over there.
Yeah, so that's a huge story that's going on over there in Russia. And we'll see. We'll have to see what happens tonight. I've heard that there might be oohs and ahs. I think that's what Kekalainen, the Columbus GM, said. That there might be some big moves. And today I saw a headline that said that the second overall pick's in play. Flyers 5th overall, I think, is in play. A couple other picks are in play.
Well, the DeBrincat trade. It could happen. That's what they want for DeBrincat. They want the number 2 pick.
See, I remember anytime that all these rumors come out, I remember last year in the expansion draft, The Rangers were supposed to get Mark Giordano, and that never happened. In fact, there wasn't even a single trade the Kraken made, like a preemptive trade, so that they got a player in exchange for not picking this said player.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just didn't pick some of the good players that were available. Like Tarasenko was available. He wasn't picked by Seattle, and I don't understand that. So I'll believe these rumors when I see it. Maybe this is all just like for I guess in Drury's case, like let's just create some traction, like some leverage in this situation. Okay, Kopp and Strome, we're going after Malkin, we're going after Dubois, we're going after JT Miller. If you guys want to stay, then you could stay, but we're going after these big name players, and if they really want to stay, they'll significantly lower their asking price. Maybe it's a whole coy to make that happen, but we don't know. So hopefully there's some fireworks tonight. I want to see some
I would
big
love
moves.
it. I would love it. I think they're gonna the right kids to get passed over. I think they're gonna take the Slaflowski kid #1 overall.
Really? Instead of
Yeah.
Shane Wright?
Yeah, I saw a rumor earlier say that he was meeting with the Canadiens owner this morning. And there was nothing for Shane Wright, but there was apparently he was. That could just be a last minute
Doing their
like
due
thing.
diligence.
Yeah, that could be a last minute thing, but you meet with the Molson family. I gotta think there's a reason behind it on draft day. I don't know. Like, why would you have breakfast with them? But interesting. Who knows? Who knows? This is a very fun draft because of that. There's no like Alexis Lafreniere. Like, you knew the Rangers were going Lafreniere. Like, you knew that was gonna happen. This is like an actual, in any draft, any NFL draft, basketball, like, who, well, I guess NBA was a little bit of a surprise this year, but like anything, like usually who's #1's going to be, generally there's not a #1 guy this year that you're like, oh, that's a home run. Like, it could be 3 different guys, which is awesome.
Yeah, so be interesting to see. Like, I always thought it was just going to be Shane Wright because that's what everybody was
that's the name you've been told, right? That's the name everyone's
That's what I've been told. Yes.
For 2 years now. Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah. Emily Kaplan said that he's not like McDavid level or Lafreniere level. Like, and I was like, damn, I thought that was a low blow. Maybe not a low blow, but I guess that just speaks to the level of the draft class, that it's good, but not as good as other years.
Yeah, I think with the thing that the one draft said to me, the one scout said to me was that there'll be a lot of NHL players in this draft, not stars. So that's what he was kind of like. He's like, there's a lot of NHL players, but not stars.
So you could fill out your roster with that, with those players and picks. We're gonna move on to we're actually gonna talk about some baseball here. I want the podcast Ice Cold Takes to kind of grow out to more New York sports. So maybe a little bit of a rebrand. We'll have to see. But I myself am a Mets fan. If you don't follow me on Twitter already, Ice Cold Takes Pod. If you don't follow and haven't seen my Mets related tweets, now you know. Kyle is a Yankees fan, right?
Yep.
Okay. And both teams are kicking butt this year. I mean, I don't know about you if you're watching every single baseball game when the Rangers were in the playoffs, but I completely tuned out the Mets because I was just so invested in the Rangers. I mean, the Mets were doing well too while all that was happening, while the Rangers were in the playoffs. So I was missing a lot, but I couldn't. It was too much going on at the same time for me.
The Rangers did not. I mean, the Yankees did not get TV space. Let me tell you that.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, I follow. I was watching, on my phone or had the update on my phone, but it was not getting. It would get the intermission. It would get the 20 minutes intermission. To the point where I was actually sitting. I was worried. I was worried I was gonna fall into a lull of an inning. So I was setting an alarm on my phone for 18 minutes, and then when it go off, I'd switch the channel back. No matter what, I was like, I'm not gonna miss this. So
that's smart.
Yeah, so that was my routine. But yeah, Yanks and Mets both look good. I think A-Rod said yesterday that he's predicting a Subway Series again. So that'll probably not happen because A-Rod said it. But No, yeah. I mean, as a Yankee fan, there's not a lot to complain about. I guess I can complain about Joey Gallo and him not hitting, and
Yeah, what's going on with him?
he stinks. He just can't hit the ball. He hit a home run last night, so I mean, I think he was like he's hitting 0-31 in his last like 20 games or that. So
Oh my
he had
goodness.
an 0 for 26 streak that he broke in Cleveland. I think it was 0 for 26 what he got up to. So
That's bad.
not good. But yeah, I
That's
mean the Yankees. I mean, what, they had 59 wins, I think, this morning they were at. I forget where they were at this morning, but
my goodness.
yeah, you hit 60 wins at the All-Star break. Doing pretty well. Yeah, they have
Yes.
59 and 23 now. So a 720 win percentage, and you're 14 games up in the division. I'll take that. I'll take that any day.
It's difficult to follow baseball start to finish all the way through every single game because the season's so long. After the All-Star break, though, that's when things kick into high gear. That's when you really have to pay attention.
Yeah.
Mets should be getting DeGrom back soon. They already got Scherzer back the other day.
Yeah, what a Mets welcome back to him, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Shut out. Goose egg.
Guy goes 6 innings, 11 Ks, and
Right.
it's nothing.
Yep. Typical DeGrom fashion right there. Yeah. I've seen it all like way too much. And watching DeGrom pitch over the past few years, guy pitches his heart out, literally perfect, and the Mets can't even score. And the Mets had a big problem of hitting with runners in scoring position in Cincinnati, and they didn't find a way until the 10th inning. The tying hit came with Nimmo on first base, actually, so he wasn't in scoring position in the 9th inning last night. So they got lucky there that he was able to score from first base on the double, and that the ball was called fair. I don't know if you saw it.
Nice,
Marte hit it right over the bag. Tough call for the umpire to make because he has to call it in the air. So he called it fair. Looked kind of foul. I can't tell, but it went that way. The Mets forced it to extras, and then they were able to get the big hits with runners in scoring position. James McCann finally had a hit, who's been struggling since he came off the injury list. Yeah. I think that's the one thing the Mets need. Like from what I've been seeing, they need a catcher. They have Francisco Alvarez in the minors, but I don't know if he's ready to come up to the majors.
They've been tied to Contreras, right, for the Cubs. Like that seems like that trade. Like I feel like I hear it every day. Wilson Contreras to the Mets, but I don't know. I mean, the Yankees got 7. I think 7 games against the Red Sox in the next 2 weeks here. They have the Red Sox for a 4-game series, then the Reds for 3 games, and then the Red Sox for 3 more, and then the All-Star break. So the Red Sox are red hot. The Yankees are been hot all year, so it'll be a good test for both those teams.
I also saw yesterday the Mets had an Instagram post where it's like vote Alonso, vote
ridiculous.
Marte, and vote Rafael Devers. I'm like, why the hell is there a Boston Red Sox player on here? And the comments were like, Devers to New York to the Mets confirmed. It's just to spite the Yankees. And I'm like, I'll take Devers. I mean, that would be a great player, but I think that's ridiculous, just a joke. Though. I think they were just fooling around there.
It was it was like the Mets released the whole thing, like them and the Red Sox are teaming up for the All-Star game. Like they're gonna vote for each other's players. It's like what every Yankee fan can confirm, like Red Sox and Mets just teaming up together. They hate the Yankees, It's just 2 little brothers upset about the big brother still being good. That's all it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mets haven't won since 86. Not in my lifetime. We got close in 2015. Oh, it was close. It was pretty similar. That World Series was pretty similar. The way the games ended was pretty similar to how the Rangers finals run ended up, where they were winning.
They were winning,
most of those games,
yeah,
and they ended up losing them.
The Rangers run. They should have won that cup. They should have won that cup. I still think about that team all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I have a player on that like was either on that team or whatever, I'm always like, what happened? Like how did we not win those games?
Man, if Nash played like he did, I always say this, if Nash played like he did in 2015 in the playoffs, the previous year in 2014 when he didn't do much, Rangers have a cup right there.
Mhm.
And if Zuccarello never gets hurt in
If
2015,
Zook doesn't
that's
get
it.
hurt, they win the
Right
cup.
there. Zook
That's the
never.
whole thing. Yeah.
Right there. Yep.
Because they were better the next year. They had a better team
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. They won the
Yandel was
President's
on that
Trophy.
team. Yandel was on a team. Like, they had a ridiculous team.
It's in my eyes still Yandel trade underrated. Love that
Mhm.
trade. Every bit of it. I do it 10 times out of 10. Love Duclair in his small sample, small little
Yeah.
playing time with the Rangers, but the Rangers needed Yandel. If only they gave him more playing time, is what I said last week on my show. Yeah, if Alan Vigneault used him a little bit more, then maybe. And the next year we could have been even better too, like 2016-17. That was his last year with the team.
Yeah. I was surprised he went to Philly last year to play with Vigneault because I didn't think he liked him. And then Vigneault got fired, but so it didn't matter. But
Yeah.
I'm sure Yandel probably liked that part of it.
Yeah, he probably like Sonk.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably like that part. Yeah.
So yeah, and then the schedule came out. Do you see the schedule at all? The Rangers schedule?
I heard the Rangers are only playing the Islanders 3 times.
3
this
times,
year.
yeah. Interesting.
Bit of a interesting start to the season, like the schedule wise. It kind of reminds me of the 2013-14, how that started, like on the West Coast, kind of. Not the first game's against Tampa at the Garden, so that's a revenge game. We need to win that one for sure. You got to win opening night.
That's got like the Caps game where like the Rangers get blown out, Ranger fans get all pissed off, and then those go on a run from there. So I can see that happening. Oh, they lost to Tampa. The team stinks, and then they'll get together after that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, yeah, I like to see the Rangers beat up on Tampa a little bit at home, get some revenge, like you said. I'm just happy it's not in Tampa and they're not going to raise like an Eastern Conference final banner on
so done with that.
You know,
so
like,
done.
I didn't need an Eastern Conference final banner night. Like I didn't need to see that.
I know we play Colorado pretty early in the season. Oh, so Shesterkin versus Georgiev already?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
I hope we're not in the building for them to raise the banner.
Nah, I'm sure they'll do that opening night. They'll do that opening night. Yeah.
I don't know if their opening night is their home opener for Colorado.
They're home against someone the day after the Rangers opener. So it's not the Rangers. I saw. I think it might be St. Louis. Actually, I forget.
Okay, all right, that's good. That's good. Let St. Louis.
Because I think the Rangers in Tampa might be the national game, on opening night, which I hope. Which is fine, but I hope they show an MSG because I want to hear Sam and opening night. I can't.
Sam and Joe opening night. Yeah.
If I hear Sean McDonough opening night, I'll be pissed.
I'll offer no comment because I'm trying to get Kevin Weeks on still. He's probably too busy on top of the Empire State Building right now.
Yeah, he's breaking news left and right. Although he broke the Marc-Andre Fleury news and then had to take it back.
What was it? He wants 1 year. Doesn't want a 1 year deal, right?
Yeah, so he said that he signed a 1 year deal. And then it came out that no, it was about him not wanting to sign a 1 year deal.
Oh no!
But you gotta love Weeksy though.
You gotta love Weeksy for sure. Still gonna keep trying to get him on for sure. One of us has to get him for. I swear, even like 5 minutes. If I could just like see him,
he follows me.
Wow.
So I've asked.
He interacts with these tweets, like he's liking them. He's like, and he's liking the quoted tweets from like my followers that are trying to get him to say something. Like people are making someone made a meme where it's just a picture of a calendar and every single day is a picture of Kevin Weeks' face on there. Cause that's how long I've been asking. Like it's like almost 50 days now.
Yeah. He followed me after the Linda Cohen interview. Okay. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, thanks so much for following. Huge fan. Love to get you in the show. Haven't heard back from you.
Nothing.
That was a few weeks ago. So
he's a busy man.
Yeah.
Did he break the Georgiev trade?
Let me see. Somebody else? Let me go on his. No, I don't think he broke the Georgiev trade. I think the Rangers broke that. I didn't see any guy put it out there. I think the Rangers just put it out there when it happened.
It makes sense.
Which has been like more. I saw that happen with the McDonough trade. Was just Tampa breaking it. No one else had it. So I think teams are keeping things a little bit closer to the vest. But Yeah, like I have a few contacts of like people just around the league that I've either had on the show or just like, have become friendly with. So I'm texting with some people this morning, like any Ranger news, like you hear anything in the
Mm,
Rangers? And they're like, not really. And then I got the snippet about Arizona and I was like, all right, like that could be a possibility. And they're like, yeah, like Arizona is looking really just to grab as many assets as it can right now. And I was like, well, that'll be a match made in heaven. And then I asked someone else about Gorgiev. And funny, they said that the quote that I got back was the Rangers have to get something done by tomorrow or else they're in trouble. So they got something done. So that was good.
yeah.
But because I guess no matter what, they were going to not qualify him. So he would just walk to that next week for nothing,
Mm-hmm.
So I think they wanted a first round pick for him at the trade deadline, which that wasn't going to happen. And like you said before, they wanted a high end pick and a prospect for him, which I don't think was going to happen. I think Chris Drury kind of ran out of time and was like, all right,
Yeah.
I'll guard 3 picks for him and
That's
hopefully,
good. I'll
yeah.
take
And
that.
listen, you can either use that 3rd round pick and move Nemeth, or that's we saw Justin Braun last year got picked up for a 3rd round pick. Like that's maybe something you put in your back pocket next year for the trade deadline. And pick
Yep.
up like Frank Vetrano was a 4th round pick. So,
Yes. Yes.
these are guys that you could pick up next year at the deadline for, these mid round
Kind
picks.
kind of like a recouping your assets kind of deal. The
Yeah.
Rangers gave up a 4th and a 3rd, those lower picks, those mid-round picks.
Yeah.
So getting them back in that Georgiev trade. That's how
Yeah.
I see it. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
good
They got
move.
some draft assets back. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good move. I'm interested to see what happens in the draft tonight. But anyways, Kyle, thanks so much for joining me once again. It was a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Anytime. Always love coming on.